So the Dunn and Dunn learning style uses a model that's going to match instructional methodologies to the learner needs. So the Dunn and Dunn learning style was first created in the 1970s, approximately 1975, by Kenneth and Rita Dunn, as the New York State Department of Education investigated ways that they could improve their student learning. Dunn and Dunn then researched these methodologies and the learner modalities over the course of approximately 20 years. The result is a learning theory that focuses on 5 stimuli and their supporting elements. The 5 stimuli are simply environmental, emotional, sociological, physiological, and psychological. Within each of these stimuli, elements are then embedded that further investigate, describe, and expound upon the stimuli. Of course, advantages and disadvantages exist for the Dunn and Dunn learning style, just as any theory has strengths and weaknesses. So thoroughly researched. The Dunn and Dunn learning theory has been thoroughly researched. This is one of the greatest advantages. Kenneth and Rita Dunn spent over 20 years researching this information and building their theory. It has reliable and valid data. Dunn and Dunn kept scrupulous records that have been detailed, and their data is detailed. This leads to both reliability and validity. Tested. The learning theory has been tested and it's been used repeatedly throughout the decades. It's been proven as an effective means to address learner needs. Control groups. When completing the research for this learning theory, Dunn and Dunn used control groups. So what is a control group? A control group is simply used in an experiment. It is going to be the group of people or subjects who will not receive any of the treatments, while the experimental group is going to receive the treatments. The purpose is to show at the end of the experiment that the group that received the treatment did show a difference and that the control group did not show a difference. Random selection. To ensure that valid and reliable data, an experiment must utilize some kind of random selection of participants. When the random selection is not used, the end data is going to be skewed and will not prove or disprove the hypothesis because you may have too many people or subjects within a particular domain or area. Increased retention of information and academic achievement. So during the experiment, the end results demonstrated that students were actually going to retain more information and knowledge for longer. They also showed higher academic achievement when the stimuli and the elements were matched with the learner preferences. It is especially valuable for strong learning preferences. So the learning style proved exceptionally valuable for students who demonstrated these strong preferences or really relied upon a particular learning modality. For example, if the individual demonstrates a high preference for a quiet learning environment, they will learn more when this learning theory is applied when they are in that quiet area. So detailed information on application. So over the years during their research, Dunn and Dunn carefully recorded details on how each of the stimuli and elements could be altered and applied in learning environments. It's easily transferred from theoretical to empirical. So the theoretical information embedded in this theory are really easily applicable to an empirical approach without having to worry about any needed special materials, adaptations, or explanations. It's easily understood. This learning theory is easily understood, period. Now, mind you, this is in comparison to other models. Many models are going to use complicated terminology, numerous stimuli, difficult interventions, etc. But the Dunn and Dunn learning theory simply applies or states that it's easy to understand. It uses easy verbiage, it's easy to understand interventions, and it has the results that are wanted. It is also easily used by practitioners. This is a great advantage because educators can easily apply this methodologies to their learning environment without having to go into extensive research to be able to understand it. So for instance, let's go back to that need for quiet. If the student needs more quiet to learn but the classroom is noisy, the teacher can provide noise-canceling earphones or a quieter location to study. Of course, the opposite is true for the student who needs more noise. And this is just one of the many ways in which the Dunn and Dunn learning style can be applied. It's valuable for special learning characteristics. So students who have specific learning needs and characteristics find that this learning theory is especially valuable. And this is particularly true for those who are high achievers and low achievers. There's Disadvantages, of course, as well. So we're going to look into a few of these. So some of the disadvantages are that little independent support has been given on the validity of the model. This means that when it was done, there aren't many people who are then repeated the research that Dunn and Dunn have completed. So it's also difficult to find additional data that supports the model. So while more research needs to be completed then to really refute or to be able to look at the validity of the Dunn and Dunn model. And this may seem to be in direct contradiction to the advantages that say it's both valid and reliable. And this is only because Dunn and Dunn provided the data, but there hasn't really been an independent effort to support their data or to repeat it. Criticism of measurement instruments. There have been a lot of questions on the measurement instruments that were used in achieving that beginning research and obtaining that beginning data to support the learning theory. Questions on validity and reliability. So really some people and some professionals are still debating whether or not there really is great validity and reliability to this model. Data collection. There have been professionals who have questioned the internal consistency of how Dunn and Dunn collected their data and how they were doing the research of this model. Now, there are many advantages and disadvantages to learning theories and obviously to the Dunn and Dunn learning style. And it's under the discretion of the practitioner and the student to weigh these advantages and disadvantages to determine the usefulness of the learning style.